Hi, I'm Jason Essary, Service Manager for Oliver Travel Trailers. Today we're going to take a look at the all-new 2023 Elite 2 model. Here on the front LP housing, you'll notice a power inlet. This power inlet is part of an optional package, the 30 amp convenience package. It adds an additional port here on the front. You also get the standard power inlet on the side that we'll take a look at a little later. This simply just gives you a few more options. If you're at a campground and you choose to connect here, you can also use this port or the port on the other side to hook to a generator as well. Now, here on the LP housing, it is a little bit larger on the Elite 2 model. It comes standard with two 20-pound propane tanks. However, we do have the option to upgrade to 30-pound tanks. Let's go ahead and take a look at removing this lid. You've got levers on both sides. You'll simply pull down once you pull those levers down. To remove, you'll simply grab a hold of the handles on each side of the lid, lift up, and slide it off to the side. Once we have access, we can see our propane tanks. Now this model is showing the two 30-pound tanks, tied down mechanism to strap and hold them in securely. We do have an LP regulator. It is an automatic changeover regulator. What that means is you can select whichever tank you'd like to pull from. If both tanks are left on, once this tank goes empty, as it's the one that's been selected, it will automatically start to pull from this tank. Now this little lever does not move. Once this tank is empty, you should see this dial turn red. That would indicate and let you know that you are utilizing this tank. Now, you don't have to operate it that way. It is just a preference. You could actually leave this tank turned off. Once this runs empty and you no longer have the gas inside, you would then, of course, know that you were out. The only downside to that is it might occur at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning when you're trying to run your furnace. So typically, if you're doing any kind of operation like that, you may want to leave both tanks on. Let's go ahead and put the lid back on. We'll just lift it up, kind of slide it in here to the side, up and over. Set it back down into its spot. Go ahead and reattach the levers. Now I do want to point out, we do have a deck port on the front. This is for quick access. If you're just simply wanting to reach in to turn a tank on or off, you can pull the deck port loose, reach inside, and you can do have access to both tanks. Once you've done that, you'll want to make sure you do re-secure this properly, and it is good to go before traveling. Let's go ahead and take a look at our front jack here. Here on the front jack, you do have a light. You just turn the switch on. You also have the switch to operate the jack up and down. Now, when you go up, that's camper going up. The jack is actually going down. And then vice versa. When you press down, camper goes down, but the jack is coming back up inside. It's important to keep in mind when the camper is sitting as it is right now, makes sense. But when you have it hooked to the tow vehicle, you may want to try to operate it the opposite direction. Just remember, up is camper up, down is camper down. Here on top, you do have a level. It's got a bubble inside. It will need to be recalibrated on occasion with 3 screws on top. If you come back for the yearly maintenance, we actually do that as part of the yearly maintenance. To remove this, in case you lose power and use a manual jack crank, you'd simply turn it slightly to the left, pull it up and off. There's a manual crank down inside. Now you'll see that a little bit clearer when you take a look at the rear jacks. The rear jacks are basically the same jack without the plastic cover on top. All right, we'll go ahead and put that back on, lock it in place. I do want to point out with the bubble, it is a little susceptible to extreme high heat. If left outside in the sunlight, it can cause it to look like the bubble is gone. It's not actually gone. It has not all leaked. The fluid hasn't leaked out. You may need to let it cool off. You may have to take it out and kind of hit it a little bit to get the bubble to come back, but it will still be there. Do want to point out a few screws here at the base of the head. You have 3 set screws. Now they are screws that go up inside the hole, so at times you may think there's nothing there, but there is a set screw. That set screw just tightens the head to the pole. So if for some reason you ever operate this and this head starts to move on you, you may just need to adjust and tighten these screws up. Now with this particular model, we have the storage basket. It is an optional feature you can have added to the camper. It's a storage basket. Some people carry different blocks, jack pads. Some people choose to store their generator in here, and you can do all of those things. Now we do not recommend that you operate a generator while sitting in this basket, simply because it's too close to the LP propane tanks. All right, if we look towards the front of the camper here, we'll take a look at the Bulldog coupler. Now every camper comes standard with a 2-inch Bulldog coupler. We do have a 2 5/16 option that you can actually get added to the camper. The way this operates, you'll remove the pin, you pull it up, slides back and opens for you to drop down onto the ball. Once you drop it down onto the ball, you can either use your hand, press this in. If you do, be careful so that it does not pinch your fingers. Now, the other option that you can do is you can go ahead and close it and then just give it a good little kick. That way you won't pinch your fingers. Be sure to add the little safety pin here. And one of the things I like to do while adding this is to go ahead and wrap it around the 7-pin cable. The reason I do that is because at some point in the future, this plastic will probably snap and break free. That way you've gotten used to utilizing the metal to keep this held up and secured. Now, you've got 2 safety chains. These safety chains would just attach to the tow vehicle. You will want to take these safety chains and crisscross them in the connection. Once you have those attached, you'll also have a safety breakaway. Now, the safety breakaway is something we hope you never have to use. But if the camper was to ever come off of the tow vehicle via the ball and the safety chains, this is the last measure to apply the brakes so the trailer doesn't continue running down the highway. You will want to make sure this is attached to the tow vehicle. Do not attach it to these chains or to anything else that would become separated and then go with the trailer. You want to make sure this is on the tow vehicle and it pulls this out completely and engages the trailer brakes. Let's go ahead and step around to the street side of the camper, take a little closer look. Here on the street side of the camper, towards the front lower shell area, you'll have the tire loading information. You'll also have a manufacturer's label here as well. It's going to show the VIN number of the camper as well as the production date. Tire loading shows the tire size, tire pressures that are recommended. Now, if you look below that, up and underneath here, you'll see the black tank flush port. The black tank flush port will only be utilized if you utilize the standard toilet. If you've upgraded to a compost toilet, then you may never use that feature. But in order to use it, you'd simply hook a water hose up, run fresh water inside the tank. It's going to help rinse it out. We do have a process on how to do that in another video. Let's go ahead and move down a little bit, and here about center point ways, we have the standard 30 amp power inlet. This is the main inlet that you will use when hooking up to shore power. It is a 30 amp 120 volt. Be sure if you do choose to have one installed at your house where you can plug and keep it charged at home, that they do install a 30 amp 120 volt. It is different from your dryer connection, which is a 30 amp 240. Now, if you look below that, in our suspension, we actually provide Dexter Easy Flex suspension. Comes with 8 grease zerks on both sides of the suspension. Those do have to be greased every 3 months, 3,000 miles, whichever comes first. This model also has the Never Lube axles, 12-inch brakes. The bearings no longer have to be repacked, and Dexter covers them under a 5-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Now here, located above the axles, we have the battery box door. You'll open the compression latch, and I will point out on this particular compression latch, it is a locking style. So when it's unlocked, you'll open it. You've got a battery tray that slides out and gives access to the batteries. Now, in the 2023 model, we have limited the number of cables that come out into the battery bank. You should have a main positive, main negative, and some jumper wires in between the batteries. All the other battery connections are located on the inside of the camper on a positive or negative bus bar. Now with these batteries here, these are an optional upgrade. These are the larger 320 amp hour lithium batteries. Our campers come standard with 12 volt. You can upgrade to AGMs, or you can upgrade to the smaller 130 amp hour lithium batteries, and then of course the 320s. Because there's two batteries, that's actually 640 amp hours battery power. Here to the side of the battery box is the external solar port plug. Now this is optional. It's included in some of the packages for the solar. Now in order to utilize this, you would have to have an external solar kit with its own charge controller. This is wired direct. It does not run through the onboard charge controller, and it cannot be. It does require an external charge controller. Now if we go ahead and look further to the back here, this is the exterior storage area we like to call our basement. It's got a locking compression latch as well. We'll go ahead and open this up. Take a look on the inside. All right, behind the outside storage door, we actually have the rear jack switches. You'll have the street side and the curbside. Now keep in mind, these are not leveling jacks. These are stabilization jacks, so you will want to level the camper first and then just simply lower these to stabilize it from side to side. Below the jack switches, you have an outside shower. You just pull this out, turn the knobs to the temperature you want, pull the trigger to have the flow. When you're done, you will want to make sure that you turn this back off, stow it away, and you will want to turn these both to the off positions. If one of these is left on, you can have some of the water supply to circulate down the wrong pipe, and it may impact the water temperature inside the camper. Now, below that, we have our black and gray blade valve drains. The black tank will only be utilized if you have the standard toilet. If you've opted for the compost, this will be here. However, you won't have any reason to operate it. If you do have the standard toilet, however, and you're ready to dump after you've hooked the waste hose up, you would simply pull this. That's going to open that gate valve, allow the waste from the black tank to flow out the rear of the unit and drain. Once you've done that and you close it, you would then pull the gray. The gray will drain out of the gray tank, help rinse out some of that waste pipe for you before closing. Now, in here is what we call the basement storage. There is a light. You just reach up and under. There's a little switch on the light itself that turns the light on. Now, at pickup time, this is where most of your items will be stored. What we provide is a power cord, a water hose, and a waste hose, and a water pressure regulator. Of course, there's quite a bit of room in here, and you can get quite a bit of other items stored in there once you get ready to go camping. Here to the right of the basement, we have two coax connections. We have one for satellite, one for cable. The satellite's going to run inside to the rear cabinet, what we call the attic, and you would have to connect the end inside to a receiver, and then this one you would connect and run to a satellite dish. Now, the cable, if you go to a campsite that offers cable, you'd simply connect the port, go inside and run a TV cable search. All right. Now, if we look up and underneath the camper here, a few things I'd like to point out. You'll notice a jack point sticker. There's four. There will be two behind the tires and two in front of the tires. What this is just where, if you ever get to a point where you need to raise the camper, instead of utilizing the onboard jacks, you will need to use your own jack, either a scissor or some kind of jack. Put some cribbing and then raise it up off of the ground. Now here we have our water inlets. The one here on the left is the freshwater inlet. This fills the onboard fresh tank. You can simply hook up a water hose, turn the water on, fill the tank. You might want to go inside, monitor, see how fast it's filling, and then make sure to turn it off before it overflows. However, if it does, we do have an overflow spot, and I'll show that to you shortly. Here on the right is the city water inlet. City water is when you're staying at a campground with a water supply. You'd simply connect, leave the water on and running inside, pressurized to the faucets. During cold weather camping, you probably do not want to use this, as the outside hose may freeze and you wouldn't be able to get water inside the camper. So in cold weather camping, it would be best to go ahead and fill the freshwater tank and then disconnect that hose. If you look further towards the back, you'll notice a clear tube. That is an AC drain tube. AC drain tube we've connected to your air conditioner on the top of the camper. As it pulls moisture out of the air, instead of just allowing all of that water to dump down the roof of the camper, we have chosen to plumb. It will drain off as much of that water as it can. However, in high humidity, you may still see some moisture or water dripping off of the roof of the camper. Here at the rear of the camper, looking towards the roof, on this particular one, we do have the optional Truma AC, as well as the optional Omni HD antenna and the rear camera. If you look below that, we have the Oliver lens. That Oliver lens and the red round lights there are all markers. Anytime you turn your headlights on, all of your markers will come on and the Oliver light will come on as well. It is not a brake light. It only comes on with the lights. This particular camper has our rear receiver hitch on it. It is an option you can get. It's a 1 1/4 receiver. You can get a bike carrier, and if you're unsure of which one to get, you can call us. We can help recommend one that is recommended and certified to be used with this receiver hitch. Now, you do not have to remove the receiver hitch to access anything inside the bumper area, but you would have to remove it to remove the spare tire cover. First, let's go ahead and drop the bumper down and take a look inside it. The bumper has a push pin on both sides to hold it in the closed position. To remove those, you'd simply kind of press up on the bumper to remove some of the pressure and go ahead and remove the pin. You'll need to do that on both sides. Now, once you've removed the pins on both sides, you can simply lower the bumper down. Now, here inside, this is designed also as a storage area. The idea is once you've connected your waste hose and used it, you can go ahead and leave it connected, store it back here in the bumper area, so that way you're not having to take that and store it back in the basement or inside the camper. Now, we'll take a look over here as well. This is a LP Quick Connect. We have an LP Quick Connect package. It is optional. It comes with a rear Quick Connect as well as a front Quick Connect. Now, it is a low pressure system and would need an appliance that can work with the low pressure system. Let's go ahead and close this. To close the bumper, you'll just raise it back up, install the pins on both sides, and you should be ready to go. Now let's go ahead and take a closer look at the bike receiver hitch, remove it so that we can also remove the spare tire cover. So to remove the bike receiver hitch, you have pins on both sides, 2 here, 2 on the other side. We'll simply pull the pins, be sure not to lose the washers. Have a washer on both sides. Now, once you've removed the pins on both sides, you'll simply slide the receiver hitch out. You can get a hold of the receiver, go ahead and just slide it out, one-handed. Now that we've got the bike receiver hitch out of the way, we can go ahead and access the spare tire. To remove the cover, we'll lower the license plate holder and remove Now, before we pull it off, I do want to remove this washer, otherwise it'll go rolling across the ground. We will need that later. We'll go ahead and pull the tire cover off. Now on the inside, it does have a wire attached. That wire is for the license plate light. You'll need to locate the quick disconnect area. All right. Once you've located that, you can pull the wire apart. We'll set the cover off to the side. Now we'll go ahead and take this actual tire off. All right, be careful when pulling it off. Go ahead and set it on the rear bumper area and then lower it to the ground. You'll need to remove the wire from the tire. Then you can roll it around, add it to whichever section you need to, put the other tire back on here until you're able to get it fixed. Now, when adding this back on, you will need to make sure you run the wire through the wheel. Just find a spoke section to run it through. Set the tire wheel assembly back up on the bumper, line it up with its holder, and slide it back in place. Before you put the cover back on, be sure to connect the license plate light. Again, you'll just want to set this kind of up on the bumper and then line it up. You lower the license plate, you'll be able to see a little better until you slide it into place. All right. Be sure to add the washer back to it. And tighten it up until it's good and secure. Now what we'll need to do is go ahead and reattach the receiver hitch. Here at the rear of the camper, we do have another water inlet. That water inlet is for the boondocking winterization configuration. What that is used for is you can take a roughly 2-foot or less hose, lower it into a jug, either of water to pull into the fresh tank, a bleach solution to disinfect the tank, antifreeze to winterize, or vinegar to decalcify. Now, of course, you wouldn't do all of it at the same time, and you definitely never want to mix bleach or vinegar. So those would happen at different intervals. But you'd simply lower the hose into the liquid, go inside, configure the valves, and then turn the water pump on, and it will pull it in, deliver it to the tank or to the faucets. Here on the curbside of the unit, we have the standard water heater. This is a Suburban 6-gallon. It is electric and gas. To open outside, you'd pull this up, kind of turn it, and the door's going to come open. Now, the only thing that you'd really ever need to do out here is if you're wanting to use the electric feature, you do have to go in and turn it on here. Make sure when it's not in use, you turn it off. If you ever accidentally leave it in electric mode turned on and hooked to shore power with no water in the tank, it will burn that element up instantly. Here on the curbside of the camper, we're going to take a look at the Truma. It is an optional upgrade. We do have a Truma package. Now, all of them do come standard with the Truma furnace, and that's what this vent is. Of course, when the furnace is running, you'd never want to touch it. That may be hot. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the Truma water heater. To open it, you'll simply turn it to open the door. Here on the outside, you do have your main power. You can turn that power up or down. Both are on. Then you'll go inside and control it from the CP Plus controls. Now, one of the other things to note out here, when you get ready to drain winterizer things, this lever is the lever you'd want to pull down to drain, but before doing so, you'll want to make sure that all pressure has been removed from the system. The best way is to make sure you're not connected to a water supply. Go ahead and open the faucet so it'll drain all the pressure off of the plumbing system. All right. You may also have to get here to drain it during storage. Now, this is the sacrificial anode. This is the way you drain it. You'll also want to check that because it will start to break apart. It's sacrificing itself in order to save the actual tank. So you will want to check that on occasions, even if you don't store it and drain it. Here on the curbside, we also have the outside outlets. It is connected to the GFCI on the inside, so if this is ever not working, of course you'd want to double check to make sure you are hooked to shore power, have 120, and then you'd check to make sure that GFCI has not tripped. Let's go ahead and take a look here at our refrigerator area. This is something new for 2023. Because we've added the AC/DC fridge, we no longer have to have venting out here for the exterior. What we've chosen to do here on the lower vent area, as this is a mold and so it's not easily changed, we decided to put a table to use however you see fit. Here it's in the up position. You'll reach under at the hinges and it will close during transit or when you're not using it. Now, you may notice underneath this little table there is a little port that's more for servicing or getting to the back side of the refrigerator if necessary. Now, here on the upper vent, we do still have a vent. It's not necessary to actually vent this refrigerator out. However, we do have that built in. Your camper will actually come with a blank behind this vent, so it will block it. However, they've made it removable where you can make that choice if you want to leave the blank or actually let some of that vent outside instead of to the interior of the camper. Here on the entry door, it's pretty much the same, no real changes from a previous model. We do have the RB lock here. It is an optional upgrade. It's the keyless entry. Your choice, you can choose whatever code you want to program it and lock and unlock. Now this feature does only control the deadbolt. The top lock only controls the handle. So if you lock the deadbolt, the handle still can be used. However, the door will not open with the deadbolt secured. Now, if you ever pull it open and it gets stuck like that, you would want to firmly close it to secure it before doing the unlock code. Here on the entry door, we do have a hold open link here, hook and hoop. So you can open that door, pull the hook over and loop it inside. Now when you do that, it will hold the door. Be sure that you don't accidentally try to close it. If you were to ever grab it and try to close it, it can snap the hook right off. Here we have the entry steps. Now this is something we make in-house out of the same aluminum as the frame. It is a double step. To lower it, you just simply take it, slide it out, and then you'll fold the top step down. Now, once you're ready to put it back in for travel, you'll simply fold it up, slide it back into place. So, what we want to look at first is the curbside awning. Curbside awning and the street side awning. So we're going to go ahead, push the switches to turn them on. Now, I do want to show you, with those on, you turn the master switch does not control them. So make sure that you turn them on and off as necessary. Now once we have the power turned on and the awnings receive power, we're going to take a look at the actual awning remote and how we operate and control those awnings. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the awning remote. Now if you have one awning, you'll just have channel 1. If you have 2 awnings, you'll have channel 1 and channel 2 that you can scroll through, so that way you know which one you're operating. Curbside will always be channel 1. Street side, which is the optional, will be channel 2. So here, if we turn it on, right now it is on channel 1. We can switch it and it'll move to channel 2. Now right now we are located inside the camper so that we can see the LED screen on this, as it is considered an inside remote. You can take it off the wall, take it outside with you. However, it's a little bit more difficult to see outside, so you may want to set it up to which channel. Once you do, you can actually lock it, lock the remote, unlock the remote. All right, but we're going to go ahead and step outside and operate our curbside channel 1 awning so that you can see the LED light and how it operates in and out. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and open the curbside awning. With the remote, it's done kind of powered down, so I'm going to hit the button to go ahead and bring it out of sleep mode. I'm going to hit the out and go ahead and see the awning extending out. Now it'll extend out by itself and stop when it's supposed to. You don't have to allow it to go all the way out. I can actually hit the stop button and stop it right here. Go ahead and hit the out button again to allow it to keep on extending to its preset limit. Now, once that's extending, I can go ahead and I can change to channel 2, which is going to be my street side awning. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit the out button on it so that I can go ahead and start extending it as well. Can extend both at the same time. And I'm going to go ahead and just let them run all the way out so that you can see the preset limit and how far out they go. All right, now both of our awnings are fully extended. You'll notice today it is a little windy here. This is okay. They are preset with a wind sensor, so if it gets a little too windy, it will pull it back in. I would tell you that anytime your awnings are out, you would want to stay close by the camper just in case a storm was to blow in and catch these awnings before the wind sensor, you have a chance to bring them back. If it does catch it and the wind sensor doesn't have the opportunity to bring it back in fast enough, it can damage the awning, which is not covered under the awning warranty. But once you're ready to bring it back in, you just simply select which awning it is that you want to do, hit the end button. It's going to immediately start retracting and bringing itself in. Again, you can do both at the same time. I'll go ahead and select channel 1 as well, tell it to come in. Both are coming in. Now, both of these awnings do have an LED light strip on the end of them, so you can turn lights on both. Again, you would just select the channel for which awning you're wanting to turn the LED light on. Let's take a look at the switch plate located right inside the entry door. Now, you'll notice several different lights, different components have their own dedicated switch. We do have a master switch. If you turn the master switch on, the first thing you'll notice is the perimeter lights will turn on. Once you have the master switch on, you can turn on your porch, your outside courtesy, main cabin, closet, and cabinet lights. Now, all of the lights are controlled by the master switch, and if you'll turn it off, it automatically turns them off. As soon as you turn the master back on, they automatically come back on. Now you have your curb awning, street awning, rear camera, cell Wi-Fi amplifier. Now those are not controlled by the master, so if you turn the master off, those will continue to be powered. Once traveling, you'll typically not want your curb or street awnings turned on. You may, depending on the options you've received, want to leave the rear camera or the cell Wi-Fi amplifier turned on while you travel. Now some of these are optional. The street awning is optional, the rear camera is an option, and the cell and Wi-Fi amplifiers are optional as well. If you do not get those, you'll simply have blanks located in those, and you can upgrade at any time to have those installed. Let's go ahead, turn the lights back on, and we're going to take a look inside at the closet. Here to the other side of the entry door, we'll have our closet. You will notice this is where your fire extinguisher is located. Now the closet door does have a compression latch. You simply pull it, twist it, and open the door. Inside the closet, you'll know that you do have a vent pipe coming through here that vents up through the roof. Depending on an option, if you've gotten the auto drain feature for your backflow preventer, that power button will also be located in here, along with 2 shelves and a hanging rod for storage. Here inside our luxurious bathroom, you'll have a sink, a faucet that doubles as a shower. Now when you pull the faucet head out, it does only reach to the holder on the wall. You don't want to pull it out any further than that, or you may cause a kink under the countertop. Now located in the front of the vanity, you'll have a little insert for you to be able to hang towels or wash rags. Up underneath the vanity, there's also an additional switch that controls your water pump. The unit has 2 water pump switches. One is located inside just in case you've already gotten in here and forgot to turn it on at the other area. You'll notice a shower pan, and then of course in this model we have the Nature's Head compost toilet. It is an option, but the campers come standard with just a Dometic 311 toilet. It's a low profile round bowl. You'll also notice here in the bathroom it has a max air fan. That fan will vent out. You can use it at any time when you're not in transit. When you're traveling, you will want to pull it shut. This particular model also has the optional shower track. It's got the shower track installed that you can look at. However, we do not have the shower curtain hung. The shower curtain is cut to meet the curve of the roof. And then in this model, it's an Elite 2, we do have a bathroom cabinet as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at where the lights are for the bathroom in the E2, located up underneath that cabinet. Here inside the bathroom, you do have a window. It's got a latch. Once you pull it, the glass will pop into these little brackets holding itself open, and then you can slightly slide the screen up. It does not open very far. And then to release this, you just have to press it out of the brackets, and it will slide back down, latch closed. Let's go ahead and take a little bit closer look at the Nature's Head compost toilet. If you raise the lid here, you'll notice you have two locations. You have your urine bottle located in the front, and then the trap in the back. For more information, you can take a look at Nature's Head website. Now on the other side, we do have it vented through the plumbing stack that goes out the roof, and it does have a 12-volt fan that runs constantly, that runs through and ties into the electrical side of the trailer. Now once you put it up for storage and you've cleaned the Nature's Head out, you may want to disconnect that so it doesn't continue to run while in storage. Here we have the standard toilet. It is a Dometic 311 low profile toilet. Now for operation, you have a lever on the right side of the toilet. You'll slightly press it down to fill the tank, press it completely to flush. Let's take a look at our kitchen area here. In this particular model, we have the optional convection microwave. Now, it works pretty much just like any other microwave. You will have to open the door and close it before you can preheat or do anything. It's going to want to make sure that something is inside, that you've placed something. Also, just a little warning, never run the microwave with nothing inside. If you run it for too long with nothing inside, it'll damage the microwave, can cause a fire. But other than that, it pretty much works just like any other standard microwave. Below the microwave, we have our new isotherm. It's a DC AC refrigerator. You simply open it, and on the inside you'll have a dial in order to turn it to the temperature you want. You'll also have a small area for a freezer. You reach in and open the door for the freezer. Of course, it's got a little magnet that holds it open for you, and then you can press it back down into place. Let's go ahead and take a look at the dial. Located inside is the temperature dial. You can just turn it to your desired temperature. It'll be based on preference. And then when not in use, of course, you'd want to turn it back off. And when you put it in storage, make sure you leave the door propped open so it gets proper air circulation. Let's go ahead and take a look at our kitchen countertop here. You'll notice a cutting board that's placed over the sink. Of course, to use the sink, you'll just pick this up, place it out of the way. With the faucet, you do have a sprayer and a stream. It pulls down. Works just like any other standard kitchen faucet. And then you just turn it left to hot, right to cold, pull it forward for the water stream. Now, you'll also notice that it comes with a gas cooktop stove. Very important thing here, when closing this lid, to make sure you don't damage the hinges, you need to pull up before closing. If you force it closed, the hinges will never lock into the safety position here again. Now, when utilizing the stove, make sure you always open a window or run your max air fan to help ventilate that out. And also a good pointer, anytime you change an LP bottle, you may want to go ahead and run the stove for a short period of time just to pull gas down the LP line underneath the camper, and it helps get some of that air that's trapped inside the line out of the system. Here under the kitchen counter cabinets, you'll have two touch lights. Once they come on with the master switch, you can simply touch the lens. Now these touch lights are on the outer perimeter of the camper, located in above the beds, the dinette, and in the kitchen area. Again, you just kind of barely touch them to turn them on and off as needed while you're in the camper. Let's go ahead and take a look at the kitchen galley and the drawer system. Let's take a look at the kitchen galley, the drawers and the slides. Now I do want to point some things out inside the camper. This is a mold. With any fiberglass mold, you're going to have some draft angles. So nothing in here is perfectly straight. Everything has a slight angle to it, and everything is adjusted to try to make it look as straight as possible. But there is a draft angle. Now here under the sink, you do have a short drawer. You'll pull it out. All of them do have soft close, so you can push it in, it'll pull it back. However, it will not close all the way. There's also an additional 10-pound push-pull latch you have to press, snap it in place, and that's to help keep the drawers secure while in transit. Keep in mind though, the amount of weight or objects in the drawers that can shift and move during transit may act just like you pulling the drawer open. And if that's the case, you may get inside and notice that everything's out. I would tell you to, anytime you put stuff in the drawers, try to pack some towels or wash rags in there with it to kind of keep it from moving around too much. Here at the pantry, you've got another compression style latch. Pull it, rotate it to open it up. On the inside, you'll have 2 wire shelves, plenty of storage for any canned goods or anything you'll need on a camping trip. Below the pantry, we have a counter. The countertop is removable here. You simply pull it up and you have a little bit more hidden storage there. Below the pantry countertop, you will notice a switch here that is not labeled. That is for your inside courtesy lights. You'll have one light located directly outside the bathroom door on the side of the dinette, and one located inside the bathroom below the vanity insert. We're going to take a look at the side dinette. Of course, it's a little side dinette, seating for 2. It also folds down into a small bed when needed. You'll notice the window shades. All window shades in here are the same. On some of the models, some of the shades may be different sizes, but they operate the same. You have your night shade that pulls down, take it back up, you pull your day shade up. If you prefer, you can switch it the other direction. These shades just simply pull directly off of the wall. You'll notice that there's 3 metal clips on the top and 3 on the bottom. When you get ready to put it back on, you just simply position it in place. And you just kind of smack it back onto the metal clips. Of course, when you want to use your windows, you have the shades open, you'll have a latch, and then you simply slide this. You do have a screen, and the screen slides as well. Now the screens only slide on the side windows. The screen in the rear emergency exit will not slide. It will pull out only. You can remove these for cleaning. You just simply pull up or down, get it out of its track. You may have to remove the window shade in order to get this fully out. And then you can just snap it back into its track, slide it again. Now, I do want to take a look at some of the weather stripping in here. We'll zoom in and take a look at this one. The weather stripping in this window is designed to help keep the windows from leaking. You'll notice here we do have a separation of the track. If this ever occurs, because this track does fill up with water with the water track system, it can cause it to pressurize under the glass when it's closed and come to the inside. If you ever see this, you will want to make sure that this gets adjusted in order to make sure there is no gap. Now you'll notice small little holes there. Those holes are normal to allow the water to kind of help seep back out. Now here at the dinette, there's 2 reading lights. You'll notice 6 in total inside the camper. All the reading lights are the same, operate the same way. Turn them on and off, you'll simply press in on the screen. They are LEDs, so they don't get hot, but you can adjust each one individually. On the other side of the dinette, under the table, we've got a 12-volt port, 12-volt USB power as well. And underneath that, we have the LPCO alarm. That is for gas or carbon monoxide. Over to this side, we have your GFCI outlet. This is the only GFCI, and all of your outlets are tied to this except for your microwave and your refrigerator. If you ever have an outlet issue and one of the outlets in here is not working, you'd want to come in here and press the reset button. If nothing happens with it, you may want to make sure that you are getting power come in. Again, remember it does have an onboard surge protector, so if it sees anything wrong with the power coming in, it will not supply it to the panel and it will not go to any of the outlets. Let's go ahead and convert the side dinette down into a bed mode. Now up underneath there are thumb screws, one on each side at the rear, that help secure this into the bracket. You want to make sure they are loose on both sides. Once they're loose, you'll simply wiggle this up and off of the pole. Once you have the table off, you'll want to go ahead and release this. Now the collar at the bottom does tighten. If it is tight, you'll want to loosen this up and then spin the pole. Pull it up and out. You can stow this in your closet. And we'll just take the dinette table and slide it into the channels here. Once you have the dinette table down into place, then you can move the cushions. As far as how to stack the cushions across here does not matter. That would be preference, just as long as you fill everything up. And now you have your bed. Here we have the Dometic thermostat. Now this is if you get the standard Dometic air conditioner in the unit. This thermostat will only control the air conditioner. You'd simply press to turn it on, scroll through the modes. You have fan mode. In auto, it's going to choose what it's going to do. You can also select low or high speeds as well. And once you've decided what your fan mode is, you can go into the air conditioner, and then at that point set the temperature that you'd like it to cool to. Now if at any point you don't like the fan speed mode that you're on, you would have to go back into the fan speed and adjust it. Once you've done that, go back into the air conditioner and you're good to go. Now you will notice that it does come up with furnace. However, it does not control and cannot control the furnace. So if you ever select furnace, the only thing that may happen is that your fan may continue to run if you've left the fan speed set to low or high. If you've left the fan speed set to auto mode, then the fan should automatically kick off when you're in this furnace, as nothing is going to be getting power, nothing's going to be running. Of course, then you can just, of course, scroll to the off. Now, in this model with the standard Dometic AC, the way to control the furnace is through the Truma CP Plus thermostat. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, here with the Truma CP Plus, when controlling the furnace, when you have the standard Dometic air conditioner, you'll turn it on to wake it up. You'll go ahead and select the little caravan picture, and then you'll turn the thermostat to whatever degree you want for your furnace. Once you select it, you will see a bottle showing you are running on LP power. A flame will start to flash as it lights and operates, and then of course at this point you could go in and adjust from auto into night mode for the fan on the furnace. Now this is the only option because once it's initialized, it recognizes that it does not have the Truma water heater and it does not have the Truma AC, so it's only going to give you control to the furnace. Some of the other things you'd still have access to, you could still set a start and a stop time and tell it what you want the temperature to come on and run and operate at during that time period. You can tell it auto fan and on. It would go ahead and put the logo in the top right, letting you know that that is engaged. Now to turn it off, you'd simply go back into it, select off, the icon disappears. You can go in and set the time to whatever time you want. And then, of course, the settings. Offset is just an offset for the furnace. Basically, once it reaches temperature, you can tell it you do not want it to re-engage until there's at least a 2 temperature differential. That way it's not shutting off just to turn immediately back on. The temperature can be changed from Fahrenheit to Celsius. The brightness can be controlled of the display You can have a 12-hour format for your clock or 24-hour format. Different languages are available. Index shows the current software, and then you can do a complete reset of the unit back to factory settings. Now, if we've decided we no longer want this to be on, we just go back in, scroll all the way to the left until we see off, and now it is turned off. Here in the standard model, since we've got the standard Suburban water heater, standard Dometic air conditioner, this is the Suburban water heater controls located directly above your radio. To turn that on, of course, make sure that it is full of water. Make sure that you do have your LP tanks turned on. Now this switch here only controls the gas side of this Suburban water heater. It does require 12-volt power to operate the controls for it. You turn that on, light's going to come on. That light is going to stay on while it's heating the temperature. Once it reaches temperature, it's going to go off. If it reaches temperature and you turn it off, and then just come back 10 to 15 minutes later and turn it right back on, this light may not come on because the burner is not required. It's going to monitor the temperature between, I believe the top end is around 185 degrees. Once it reaches that temperature, it shuts off. It'll monitor it until it drops down to about 120, and then it would re-engage the flame. When the flame is re-engaged, you would notice the red light. Red light is to let you know that the burner is on and it is heating. Located to the right of the pantry, we have several options here. This has the Truma package, so it's got the Truma air conditioner, Truma furnace, and the Truma water heater, all controlled from the CP Plus. Now you'll notice here we've got like a little caution sign. That's because one of the devices is not turned on. We currently also don't have power in the camper, so we won't be able to actually run the air conditioner in it without shore power. What I'm going to do is go ahead and I'm going to turn our inverter on so we can get power. With this particular model, we have a 3,000 watt inverter that is able to run the air conditioning. So once we turn that on, it takes just a few seconds for it to supply power out to everything. You'll notice here it's still waiting. It hasn't given us any information just yet. All right, now it's popped up showing our 13.1 volts, the green light showing that we are on battery. This would light up if we were on shore power. So what I want to do is go ahead, turn this on. You can adjust it, heater, air conditioner, or auto mode. Once you select the one you want, you can turn it and set it to, if you want it on cool, auto. Or if it's cold, we can turn the furnace on, turn it all the way up, and then all the way back down. Now once you do run it on furnace, you'll notice that a little flame comes in. You'll see a bottle pop up that's just letting you know you are using your propane. The flame will show once it starts to light and it's burning, it'll start to flash as well. And the fan is in auto high mode. Now when it's in furnace, you can go over to the fan and adjust it to auto or night. You can go in here, if we go back into the AC and turn it to AC mode for cool, then we can switch it back to fan and go from low, mid, high, and night mode. We scroll back to the little picture of the RV. We're going to go ahead and turn this back to off. Now this here is for the hot water heater. You can go into the hot water heater, turn it to eco. Eco mode will keep the temperature inside the small tank at 42 degrees. It won't let it get to a temperature where it'll freeze. So that would be the mode if you're just wanting it to be available but not use too much of the propane. You also have comfort. It will maintain that tank at around 102 degrees. So it's much warmer. It'll deliver that hot water a little bit faster, but we're talking seconds. Now, this here is a timer. You can set it to where something kicks on automatically. This is AM 4:30. And then what time you want it to go off. You can tell it AC, auto, or heater. So that way it comes on to a specific temperature, and you can just tell it, I want it to come on and be at least 70 degrees, and use either AC or heat in order to reach that. You can also tell it you want it to automatically turn your hot water heater on. You can adjust the temperature down if you don't like the preset 120, and then you tell it, yes, turn it on. Now you'll notice the timer is up here as well, letting you know it is on, and it would run that every morning until you turn it off. If we want to turn it off, we'd simply, while this is flashing, go back into it, turn it off. The little logo is no longer there. Now, if you ever see the caution light, you can click it. It'll tell you what the code is. W means warning, E would mean error. 255 is the code, and W means water heater. If it's the furnace, it'll have H for heater, but this is because the water heater is not turned on outside at the main power switch. This is to set the clock at whatever time it is where you're at, and then you can go into settings. Offset is for the furnace. You can set the offset at whatever you want for the furnace, so it's not constantly cycling. You also have an AC set that you can set up. ACC you would want on in order to utilize the AC set parameters. You can go into the AquaGo settings. And this is just some of the different options that you have. You can set your temperature from Fahrenheit or Celsius. Brightness of the screen. You can choose to set it up for a 12-hour clock format or a 24, whichever you prefer. Different languages, index, and then a complete reset of the thermostat back to factory settings. You will notice a little plug there. The plug is indicating that it is receiving 120 volt power. Again, we're not plugged in, but we have the inverter on, so as far as it's concerned, it is getting 120 volt power and will allow the AC to run. That is an optional thing with the 3000 watt inverter. Now, let's go ahead and take a look below that. You've got your sea level 2 tank monitor. It shows your battery voltage. Now, with the battery voltage, it's going to show you either what the battery voltage is or what the charge voltage going into the battery is. When you're hooked to shore power and charging, it may show you the charge voltage. If you immediately unhook from shore power, it's typically going to be less. If you ever see 14.4 volts or higher, that is a charge voltage, not a battery voltage. Now, to look at what you have in the fresh tank, press the fresh button. It'll come up and display the percentage and go back out. If you need to see it for a little bit longer, you can press this button twice. You'll notice a little dot, and that way it'll leave that display up there. That way, if you're filling your fresh tank, you can come in here and monitor it. Once it gets close to full, you can go back out and turn the water off. Press the button, it goes back out. Same thing for the gray. And then same thing for the black tank if you're needing to monitor those. Now this is the primary water pump switch here. Turn it on here. You can also turn it on in the bathroom as well at the vanity. Below the sea level monitor you have your inverter control. This does allow you to see information. Currently showing 13.1 volts in the batteries. We don't have any load because we don't have anything turned on at the moment. It is showing that batteries are providing the power. Again, the battery picture here with the green light shows that we are running through the batteries. That is controlled with this button. On-off switch, you can turn that off and everything should shut off. We'll lose that 120 volt power out to our appliances that run through the inverter. Not everything does run through the inverter. Your refrigerator does not run through the inverter. It is an AC/DC fridge, dedicated circuit, and only runs either through shore power for the AC side, or it will run through the DC side off the batteries, and that's because it is more efficient that way. You lose efficiency running it through the inverter. Same thing with the microwave. It is on its own dedicated circuit. However, it is attached to the inverter, so that way you can run it through the inverter when you don't have shore power available. The other thing on the inverter is going to be the rest of the outlets in the camper and your air conditioner. if you've gotten a 3,000 watt inverter. If you've gotten a 2,000 watt inverter or no inverter, your air conditioner will not be on the inverter side and will only work on shore power. One of the new features in the 2023, this is optional, the Victron Energy battery monitor. It does show you the voltage. You can scroll through, see how many amps is currently loaded on the system, the watts, the amp hours, and the state of charge on the batteries. This should closely match what you have on your battery app that you can monitor directly at the battery app as well. This does have Bluetooth, so you can connect to this via your phone as well. We'll look at that a little bit later when we also take a look at the solar charge controller that you will Bluetooth and use an app to control. We'll go into the Victron Connect app. Now, once we go into the Victron Connect, it's going to show me all of the Bluetooth Victron available. Of course, now I'm here on site with quite a few campers that have it, so it's showing me several. Now, the Smart BMV is the battery monitor. Of course, you can see the picture to the left. If you'll click on that, it'll log into it. 6 zeros is the default PIN code. This particular one is out of date, so we would need to update it. You'll simply click the update button, run it through until it finishes its update. Again, note the 6 zeros. I didn't have to enter it because I'm already connected to it. Now, it's telling me that it's unsecured access to change the PIN code. I'm not going to change the PIN code now because I'm going to wait until whoever buys this camper can change it to what they want it to. Not now. So it's showing me 100% state of charge on the batteries. Now it's popped up and it's asking me for an instant readout. I do like that feature. You can see here in the center where it shows a little bit more information underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and say enable now. We'll go back in a moment and take a look to see what that shows. But here on the main screen, 100% state of charge shows my voltage of 13.61 volts. The current draw that I have, that can either be negative if you're drawing or it can be a positive if you're charging. At 13.61 volts, we're probably in a float state of charge on the batteries. Now, the consumed amp hours shows how much we've consumed during this last time period. Time remaining doesn't show anything because we're currently connected to a shore power. We can go into the history and see some more information as well as trends. Now let's go ahead and go back out. Now we're going to go ahead and log into the solar charge controller. It's the Smart Solar MPPT. Now while we're on this screen, you can see some of the ones I've already enabled the smart readout, where it shows the voltage, the watts, and information underneath. Now let's go ahead and go into the solar charge controller. Again, 6 zeros is the default PIN code. And again, this one is out of date, so we'll need to go ahead and update it. Once the update is complete, go ahead and click the continue button. It will send us back to the main screen. We'll go ahead and click back into the charge controller. All right, and since I'm already connected to this one, I did not have to enter the 6 zeros. I'm again not going to change the pin at this time. But now this is showing us information. You have solar voltage information. This is from the panels, and you've got batteries. That is from the batteries. You also show the current at both the panels and the batteries as well. And again, you can go into the history, you can go into the trends to see more information. Now, as far as the settings for either one of these, they should already be set up by us here at the plant or at the dealership. If for some reason you have questions, you can give us a call. Now below the battery monitor, we have a Furrion radio. It works similar to any other radio. You've got your power button. Right now it's off with the red light. The red light does stay on when it is off. Press the button, it changes to kind of a blue color. You've got your volume here and your zones. We only use zone 1 and 2. If you press these and turn them off, the speakers are cut off, and at that point it does not matter what the volume is turned to. So make sure zones 1 and 2 are on. Some of the other things we have that you'll want to know, of course, you can Bluetooth to it. It does have different ports that you can connect and select. One of the primary things that we use is the ARC channel. You can scroll through until you get to ARC. On ARC, that's going to allow you to get sound from the TV through to the radio. That way, if you're watching TV either through the optional Omni HD antenna or you've connected to your smart TV another way, you can run through the ARC, play it through the radio speakers. Located on the ceiling, kind of in between the kitchen and the pantry, is the Max Air fan. This is the fan you'll want to operate and run while you're cooking with the LP stove. It does have a manual feature here to open and close it. You can use that if the power is not working. You can also use this once you've turned the fan on if you want to close the hood and use it more for like a ceiling fan. That will simply help recirculate air inside. However, when you are running the stove, you will need to make sure you are venting out so that it is pulling that gas fume out of the camper. Now you have controls located here on the Max fan. There's also a remote control, but we'll operate them here. You press the power button, it will automatically open. It will start to blow according to how you left it. It can pull air in or it can vent out. You can also adjust the speed directly here with a plus and minus, and then it has a button to change from venting in to venting out. Those are pretty much the controls that are located directly here on the Max fan. Of course, you can press the power button again, turn it off, it'll go ahead and close everything. We can take a look at the actual Max Air fan remote. Let's take a look at the Max Air fan remote. Now the display on ours is already awake. If it's not, you'd have to press the power button, wake it up. Once you have the information displayed on the screen, you'll press it again and it'll go ahead and turn the fan on to where you left it when you turned it off. So here it's showing that we are venting air out. This button controls that, and you can pull air in or air out according to what you're doing. You also have plus and minus buttons. The plus and minus controls the set temperature. You can set the temperature here on this and set it to auto. At that point, it'll determine what it needs to do to vent air in, vent air out accordingly. Of course, it is not a heater or an air conditioner. It's only going to try to control it based on the temperatures inside and outside. Now, we'll turn it back onto regular air. To do the speed, you'll control the fan buttons here. Up controls the speed up, of course down to down. Now you can close the lid, and you'll notice here it says ceiling fan, so it's placed it in ceiling fan mode. Ceiling fan mode is only to recirculate air that's already inside the camper. And then of course when you're ready to turn it off, just simply press the off button. Now the display will go to sleep by itself, so at this point you can place it away inside a drawer or wherever you want to store it. All right, located on the ceiling of the camper is the Truma air box. The air conditioner outside is going to dump the air down into here, and then where that air goes depends on how you control all these adjustments. You have several adjustments. You can turn this and the little flappers control. At this point it's kind of blowing more down, or I can open it up to where it'll force more of the air forward. You can turn these little things as well, which will blow it either this direction or that direction, depending on how you've got them turned. Now this one, typically I would tell you to leave it in the center. This control is on the inside, and it basically controls, once the air drops down, how much air comes to this front vent and how much comes to the rear. If you do control it, I would tell you to push more towards the front than the rear, so it moves it towards the front of the cabin. The back control works the same way as the front. Let's take a look at the cabinets now. Elite 2 comes with 7 cabinets inside the main cabin and 1 cabinet in the bathroom. Now some of these cabinets do have other items based on the options that you choose. It has the same compression latch as the pantry and the closet. You'll simply pull it up, spin it, and drop it down. Make sure, because there's nothing that holds it, you help lower it down into place, especially in an area above the microwave or the TV, so it doesn't come swinging down into the TV or the microwave. Now, this is a storage area for anything that you want to store. Again, there are some items inside some of these cabinets that we're going to take a look at here in a moment. I do want to point out on the street side, you'll have a black liner mat. If you pull that liner mat up, you can see the raw fiberglass underneath, with the wiring running at the back side of that. On the curb side, we'll take a closer look under it. It's a little different because of the 120 volt outlets that are installed on that side. But let's go ahead and take a peek inside this cabinet to show you some of the things you might see if you were to get solar or a cell booster. Located inside this cabinet to the rear is the cell booster. Now, that cell booster switch is located at the main entry door switch plate, and to control it, you just simply turn it on. Once you turn it on, it'll power up and it will do its thing. There's no other thing that you should have to do. Now, to get the best out of the cell booster, it is important to get the serial number off of it and contact your carrier to provide it to them, so that way it can provide the best signal for your carrier that you have. Let's go ahead and look towards the front of this cabinet. We'll take a look at some other items. Towards the front of this cabinet, you'll notice a service port. This is a port in order to get to the back side of the radio and battery monitor. And here there's a solar disconnect. Currently it is on, but if you ever put it in storage or you need to service it, you can just simply turn the dial to the off position. At this point, there's no longer power coming from the panels down to the charge controller. We're going to take a look at the cabinet above the microwave. Towards the front of the camper, you have another service access point. This gets to the back side of the main switch plate, and you'll have a single outlet here for the microwave. Taking a look inside the cabinet above the kitchen countertop, towards the rear, you'll notice another service port. That service port is just to be able to gain access for a reading light and some 12-volt ports wiring inside. Taking a little bit closer look inside the cabinet on the curb side, I want to pull the black piece up. Now, you'll notice on this side there's another piece of white board in here, and that is for code purposes to go above the 120 volt wire that runs in this cabinet. We just have to make it a little more difficult to reach in here to grab a hold of that for safety purposes. All right, here in the rear cabinet that we like to call the attic, on this wall we have the switch plate for the Omni HD antenna. This is optional. You'd simply press the button, the green light tells you that the power is on, and that's all you have to do here at the switch plate. The next thing you'd want to do is go to the TV and run a channel search. You can leave this on if you choose to, or you can turn it on and off as needed. Of course, 120 volt power here. This is the TV connection. It is a 120 volt smart TV, so you will have to have shore connection or actually have the inverter turned on for the TV to operate. You do have a 12 volt port for an accessory if you choose to have one here. And we leave one HDMI cable that's already connected to the TV here in this attic if you want to add something like a Blu-ray player or some other appliance or device that would connect to the TV. Let's take a look at the other side. Located on the other side of the attic, we have the optional cradle point. That is the Wi-Fi. What that does is actually pulls in a cell signal, comes into this router, and then creates your own personal Wi-Fi. Again, it is optional. Yes, the cradle point name is upside down, and that is intentional. That gives you access to the front here for all your status lights that you can see, as well as the SIM tray. There's not as much important stuff back here that you'll need to be getting to, so we chose to install it that direction. Even though the name is upside down, this is simply just a brush plate for the cables to come through. Now, next to it, this is the surge protector display. Anytime you're connected to shore power, this will have information scrolling through in red. It's going to tell you your voltage, your amps. It's going to tell you if there's any errors in the system or not, or any previous errors in the system. If you do have an era or a previous era, it's probably best to unhook from that shore power and either contact us or Progressive Industries in order to find out what's going on, just to make sure nothing happens and no damage occurs outside the camper. That surge protector protects everything inside. However, your power cable and the power inlet on the side of the camper are still susceptible to any kind of issues that are coming in from the shore power. Now you do see here it has a little switch. It's in normal use mode, and that's what we recommend, is to leave it in normal. That's going to protect you from the most issues from the shore power. Now if you choose, you can push the switch in to bypass the EMS, allow that power to come in regardless if there's an issue or not. However, it could result in appliances going out or internal issues happening in the camper. So typically always run it in normal use mode. We're going to go ahead and turn the TV on so we can take a little closer look. All right. When it first comes on, now right now the input that the TV is set to is for HDMI. Since we don't have anything playing through that input, it's not going to play anything. At the top left corner of the remote is the actual input button. You can press that and that will scroll you through all of the different options. Now, SmartCast is the smart TV feature of the TV. So again, if you have the cradle point option with Wi-Fi, you'd be able to utilize it, connect the TV to the cradle point, and watch any of your favorite TV shows, movies, or whatever. Now right now, of course, it's showing no network detected because we don't have the cradle point turned on or set up inside the building here. Again, we could press input and we can scroll through some of the different inputs of the TV. So one thing I did want to show, now right now I've selected HDMI 1. So if I turn my Omni antenna on outside and I was wanting to scan for TV channels, I hit the settings button and I noticed that TV channels is grayed out. That's because HDMI 1 input is not a TV channels supported source. HDMI is going to go from the TV to the radio or to the accessory you add in the attic. So therefore it's not going to let me try to scan for TV channels, as that's not an option on that input source. So you'd have to go through the input source to find the one that you use for that. So on this one, and this may change sometime. So right now it says no signal TV. But if you notice, if I go back to input, it says cable. And that's because the last thing utilized through this TV was cable. So therefore it's locked to cable instead of saying TV. If the last thing I used was TV, it would say TV. So once we've got cable or TV selected, you go in, you're going to hit the settings, which is a symbol of a little gear on the TV remote. Once you do that, you do have TV channels, as you can see now. You select that and you'd simply hit Find Channels. Or you can hit Find New Channels if you want to perform a new channel search. Now we're currently located in an area where we will not get any TV channels. However, I'm going to go ahead and perform so you can see what it looks like. And sometimes it does take 5-6 minutes for this to run through an entire scan. So if it's taking a little bit of time while you're sitting here watching it, it does take time. And like I said, where we're currently located, I knew we wouldn't find any channels, but I wanted to go through the process just so that you would know what to expect when you search for channels. Now at this point, of course, there's other settings and things that you can go into. We're not going to go into any of that right now. Most of that is just picture, audio, network type stuff, just like any other TV. Located towards the rear of the camper underneath the attic cabinet, we have a CO smoke alarm. It is similar to one you might find at home. You can just spin it off, drop it down, test silence button, as well as a battery compartment when you need to change it. It's got the bracket that stays adhered to the roof, and then you just slide it back in place and secure it. Located behind that, we also have some more ports here. You got a 12 volt and a USB charge port as well. Now here on the emergency exit, the screen does not slide. It's got a red tab, and this is just to pull it off of its track. Then you just simply pull it out from behind the window shade. This gives you access to the red handle on this side. And you'll pull that one. That will go ahead and open the exit window for you to climb out in case of an emergency and you can't get out the main entry door. Now, once you're done, you can pull it back in, close the lever on each side, and then we'll need to replace the screen back in. You'll notice on this, it just has little metal clips on the top and the bottom, so you'll want to position typically the bottom and then just press and snap the top back in place. All right, we take a look on the left side of the TV. Up underneath the cabinet, you'll notice another 120 volt port. That's for any accessory that you might need to plug in. In the 2023 Elite 2 twin bed, the nightstand has been updated. It still has the compression latch in the front to keep it from opening during transit. To open it, you will need to pull it, twist it. The drawer slides open. Now, one of the things you may notice is the sides of the drawer are taller. We've increased the size of this drawer, but by doing so, we did have to remove the little hidden drop-in underneath the countertop. So this countertop is no longer removable. You should not attempt to pull it up from the nightstand. We simply increase the size of the drawer here. Again, make sure before traveling, you secure it completely in place so that it will not come out during transit. Today, our delivery specialist, Ryan, is going to demonstrate how to put the table down into bed mode. Now, this is on our standard floor plan Elite 2 model. Ryan, if you would go ahead and pull the table off of the poles. All right. Once you have the tabletop removed, now you'll want to go ahead and loosen the poles at the base so that we can remove them from the floor. All right. You'll turn both to the left, and then you'll take each pole, turn it to the left to remove it from the base. Now, you can store that in your closet or anywhere else that you'd like to stow it out of the way. You can stow it underneath the bed as well, if you prefer. Now, once you have the poles removed, you'll want to take the table and place it down into the bed channels to create the bed. Now, once you have the table in place, you will notice a small area in the very front, a gap. You'll need to retrieve the filler panel from your closet. It is attached to the sidewall of the closet. Once you have that, you'll simply place it in that front area of the gap. And then you can go ahead and slide the cushions down into place to create the bed. Now, once you're ready to go ahead and set it back up into table mode, you'd simply do everything in reverse. Go ahead and put the cushions back in place for seating. Remove the filler panel and return it to the closet storage. Go ahead and pull the table up. Set it off to one side or the other so we have room to attach the poles back to the base. You may want to look at the bottom of the pole, line it up with the base, and once you've dropped it down into place, you'll turn it to the right to secure it. Once the poles are in the base, you still will want to go ahead and turn the collars to secure them to the floor. And now we will go ahead and reattach the table to the poles. As the waste pipe comes from the black tank, you'll notice the first blade valve here. That is the black tank blade valve. That's what opens it up and allows you to drain the black tank. Located on the smaller pipe is the backflow preventer. This one has the auto drain feature, so it's also got the electronics attached to the blade valve, and it is controlled from inside the closet. If you don't get the auto drain feature, you'll end up having a cable and a handle located inside the bathroom. Here at the other side of the dinette, we'll take a look. This is more of your electronics center. Now, of course, depending on the options you've gotten, you may have different things in here. Located on top of the wheel well is the automatic transfer relay. That is if you get the convenience, 30 amp convenience port located on the front of the camper. That way, depending on which one you connect to with power, comes in, the transfer relay will kick and switch and send power out to the camper. Once it leaves the transfer relay, it's going to go through a surge protector. Now, a surge protector in our camper is standard. Every single one will get that option or that feature, and that's going to verify the incoming power to make sure everything is good before it sends it out to your AC panel. Once the surge protector does see that everything is good, it's going to go ahead and send that power out to the panel. Once it gets to the panel, then of course it depends on the option you've chosen, whether it's a standard or if you've gotten one of the inverter options, where the power runs from that point. Now in here you'll also notice a metal bar with a lot of yellow wires. That is your ground bar, and your main ground studs are to the right section of that. A little bit above and to the left you'll notice another relay. That's your water pump relay and part of the water pump system. And you'll see a few other wiring in there, which is running to the back side of the 12-volt fuse panel. We'll take a look a little bit closer at those that are located kind of on the side underneath the table of the dinette. But let's go ahead and take a look at those now. All right, this is the 12-volt fuse panel. If you ever need to get in here, you can open it up. Now it is labeled individually of what everything is. Your electronic circuit does include quite a bit. For more information on that, just look at your service manual or your owner's manual. It'll tell you in detail what runs off of the electronic circuit, but you can match it up with the fuses. Pop that back in place and take a look at our AC panel here. Now the AC panel is going to look familiar just like at home. You've got your breaker system. You should have a 30 amp main, and then depending on what options you've chosen, it may look a little different from this one. As long as the breakers are on, each one of these appliances is receiving power. All right, here on the street side bed, we're going to go ahead and fold the mattress back. This will give us access to compartments under the bed. Here under this one, we have our inverter mounted on the interior wall. This is our solar charge controller, and then our main power connections. One will be the breaker for the inverter, a breaker for the main 12-volt. You'll also have an auto resettable breaker. And then if you look up and under towards the front of the unit, you'll also notice the new bus bar system. Now most all of the battery connections are going there, and then you'll have a single positive connection going out to the battery. Now a few other items to note inside this compartment. Laying down here on the very bottom is the blade valve for the gray tank. You'll also notice the jack. This is where you would need to attach the manual jack crank in case you ever lost power and needed to retract or extend those jacks. We'll take a look off of the 12-volt breaker. There are a few inline fuses here that you might want to take a look at. Now, here in these yellow capsules are the fuses for your jacks. You'll have one for each jack on board. You'll also have an inline fuse in here for your auto drain, as well as your compost toilet and your LP alarm. Now, of course, the compost toilet and auto drain are optional features, so you may or may not have those in line. One other fuse to point out is an inline blade fuse for The external solar port, again, it is optional and part of the solar package, but you would have a fuse in line with that option. Now we're going to fold the bed towards the front of the camper on the same street side. We have one other access panel here. This just gets to that exterior basement section in case you needed to get something while you were inside the camper. Here on the curbside, we're going to pull the mattress towards the front of the camper to expose another access panel. Now, located under this one, we'll have our water heater and the new Truma Vario heat furnace. That is new for the 2023 model. It is standard and actually comes with all of the campers. You can opt to get the Truma package, which then gets you the water heater and the Truma air conditioner as well. If you get standard, it'll be a Dometic air conditioner, Suburban water heater, and a Truma furnace. So one of the things you'll want to notice here is the bypass valve for your water heater. And regardless if you get a Truma or a Suburban, it's going to look the same. It's going to be a brass valve located on the lower cold water line at the back of the water heater. So right now it is turned into normal use mode. Water is able to flow inside the water heater. If we were going to be winterizing and storing this unit, we would simply reach in, turn that valve towards the white hose, and now it's in bypass. What that does is when we run the antifreeze through the system, it's going to come in and divert it up this hose down the hot water line and keep that antifreeze out of the water heater itself. We'll fold the curbside bed towards the rear of the unit now. Open this access panel, and this gives us access to the water pump and water accumulator. This is where the valves are and for us to control. You'll also notice a diagram here that shows you normal valve configuration. Normal valve configuration is what you're going to use most of the time when you're hooked to city water, or even if you are using your onboard freshwater tank with the water pump. You also have two other configurations called boondocking and winterization. Now, both of those configurations tell the water pump to pull something from the rear port. That port is dedicated to 4 different things. You can either be pulling additional fresh water into the tank when you don't have a city water to push it into the tank. That would be if you're using a 5-gallon jug of water, the water pump can pull it from that rear port, pull it and dump it into the tank, which would be used for the boondock configuration. You'd also use that if you're sanitizing the tank and pulling bleach water in to clean it. Now with the winterization configuration, what that does is it pulls in from that rear port as well, but instead of delivering it to the fresh tank, it delivers it directly to the faucets. That would be used for delivering antifreeze through the system for storage, or you can also use it to decalcify the plumbing system, running vinegar through and out through the faucets as well. Now keep in mind, you would never want to do the sanitization and the decalcification at the same time. Never mix vinegar and bleach. Now, you also have your other rear jack located in this access panel if you ever do need to use it. You'll also look here and notice the new Truma ducting that runs through the system. It's a little bit cleaner and opens things up. If you look straight down towards the bottom, you'll notice the fresh tank drain. That valve is currently closed, which means whatever water is in the tank stays in the tank. If we turn it in line with the pipe, it would then be open and we could drain the fresh tank for storage reasons. I would tell you, anytime you're not going to be utilizing the camper for a while, definitely drain the tank out. You do not want to leave any water in the tank that could become stale. If anything grows in there, it can create further issues for you. One other valve I do want to point out, there is a valve located further towards the front on the top line that goes into the fresh tank. That line is utilized for testing purposes only in the plant and should remain open at all times once it leaves the plant. All right, so here we have the water pump, and to the left of that we have a filter. It's a little glass filter that you can remove and clean out on occasion. Be careful once you put the filter back on not to strip the plastic threads. Now to the right of the water pump we have the accumulator. The accumulator is something that just simply holds air, and it is supposed to help with some of the vibration from the water pump. The way to get air in there is actually the valve is at the very back side of it, so we utilize a special compressor fitting that we have to reach around to the back and air it up to the desired pressure. Thanks for watching. Be sure to watch our other videos on our YouTube channel.